Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different here, with Nintendo announcing this past week that they will be shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShop in 2023. Everyone's kind of talking about the 3DS and the Wii U again, and you know, I'm not going to get too much into that. There's plenty of other people discussing it. It's definitely not a pro-consumer move on Nintendo's part, and they've classically made it very difficult to play some of their retro titles if you want to buy it legally and not have to go to a secondhand market where prices are inflated. And just kind of coincidentally, I've been rearranging some stuff at my house and have some limited shelf and storage space here. So I was actually thinking of putting my physical Wii U games away in storage to make room for my growing Switch collection that's kind of overtaking my shelf at the moment. So I thought it would just be kind of fun to go through my physical Wii U titles and talk a little bit about what it was like at the Wii U launch and really just kind of look through my physical collection before I put it away. So real quick, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. Been a little light on the reviews lately, but I have some cool stuff in the works that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. But until then, let's just take a quick little trip back to 2012 and go through these games here. And as you can see, I've got my Wii U Fisher-Price gamepad here. I went with the Deluxe Wii U edition at launch, and right around that time I knew something was a little off. I had camped out the night before the Wii release back in 2006 and literally stayed overnight at the local Target. I think I got there at maybe midnight or 1 in the morning, and there were already quite a few people there, but I still had a decent spot in line, and it was really fun. I mean, it was kind of cold and uncomfortable, but there was just tons of excitement in the air and made some friends in line. The Wii had a ton of hype before it, even before launch. There was that South Park episode, and it was just a really fun time. And even though we had a good spot in line, when Target finally opened up, everyone was sprinting through the Target to get to where the Wiis were. So it was super competitive. And when I went to Best Buy on launch day for the Wii U, there was no one there. Literally no one. I just walked into the store, there was no line. There were tons of these on the shelf, and it just seemed like there wasn't much hype about the Wii U at the time. And of course, that kind of had to do with Nintendo's poor communication around what the Wii U was. There was that E3 presentation where they really just showed off the gamepad and didn't really show the system itself, which led a lot of people to think that this was just a new peripheral for the Wii, which was really an odd choice because at the time when the Wii U released, it was actually the most powerful home console on the market. It was more powerful than the PS3, but they really kind of shied away from showing the system itself and made it all about the gamepad and its asymmetrical capabilities. And obviously that ended up really hurting them in the end, but I still had a ton of fun on this console. And even though, it only ended up selling 13 million units and some change, there were some really exciting releases on the Wii U, some of Nintendo's best, and obviously a lot of them have come over to the Switch now. But yeah, let's take a look at my physical game collection. It's not huge really, I really kind of stuck to the big first-party releases, but there was definitely less releases on the Wii U than the Switch. There was quite a few software droughts. And I also got some stuff digitally, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and Wind Waker and Captain Toad and some other stuff like that. But with all that out of the way, let's start off at the beginning. Okay, so first off, Nintendo Land, which was a pack-in game with the Wii U showing off the capabilities. Really a lot of fun, and this game really showcased the asymmetrical gameplay capabilities that Nintendo would kind of quickly move away from after this, but this really showcased what the Wii U was capable of. You can take a look at some of the games on the back, and the games that I found the most fun were the Luigi's Mansion Ghost Hunt and the Animal Crossing game and Mario Chase 2, where you kind of would have one player doing one thing while 4 other players were doing something else, and just made for a super fun party game and really creative. And as you completed these games, you would unlock special set pieces for your theme park. So the more you played it, the more this park would fill out with all these cool items. Just, yeah, super creative, super fun. open it up and take a look. Still have all the manuals and all that stuff in there. And one odd thing about the Wii U discs is that they have this like rounded, smooth edge instead of kind of being, you know, flat and a little sharp. So it's just like really pleasant to hold these in the hand. I know that's kind of a random thing, but just kind of one of those odd little Nintendo details here. And nothing much exciting in here. I'll take a quick peek through the manual, just showing off the different games. So yeah, that was a pack-in with the Wii U. So I was playing this a lot on launch day with some friends. And that's one that, you know, obviously since it relies on the gamepad, that game has not come over to the Switch. Next up, new Super Mario Bros. U, another launch title. So I picked this up on launch day. It was really, yeah, just this in Nintendo Land that I was playing. And it was a little, I don't know, it wasn't the most hype launch title. At this point, we had quite a few of the new Super Mario Brothers games in kind of like quick succession as far as releases go. So I think at this point I was sort of tiring of the new Super Mario Brothers line, and I don't know, the art style wasn't really all that inspired, so it was sort of generic looking. But there were still some really cool things you could do on the Wii U gamepad, like adding platforms and some co-op elements. And the game was still a ton of fun. There's some great levels in this game. But yeah, not my most favorite Mario title. Pop it open. There's my expired Club Nintendo rewards number, but I definitely redeemed all these back in the day to get those awesome Club Nintendo rewards. And then of course now we have new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe on the Switch. I never ended up picking that one up just because I played through this game plenty and just didn't really have any desire to go back to it, but still a solid title, and it's always cool to have a Mario game at launch. Next, Pikmin 3, another release that has come over to the Switch since with Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Really love these Pikmin games. The Wii U gamepad added some fun elements. You know, it was always nice to have like a map screen in your hands. The Wii U really behaved like a DS or 3DS did, except using your home TV as like the big screen, and then you have that secondary screen in your hands for menus, maps, inventory, that kind of thing. Pop it open. I have to say, I do miss disc art, you know, now that the Switch is cartridge based. A lot of really nice looking disc art back in the Wii U days. Hopefully Pikmin 4 is still coming out. It's supposedly been done forever, but we have yet to see it. And next up, what was the release date on this? So 2013, so this was fairly close to launch. And this was a pretty exciting release. We had Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS, which was fantastic. And this was kind of like the bigger brother version of that. It was kind of odd because it relied on sort of the same camera angle and mechanics that the 3DS used, but that really relied on actual 3D elements to kind of guide you with certain platforms and depth perception and that sort of thing. So obviously that wouldn't happen here with the Wii U version, but it was still a fantastic title. And it really had a unique feel to it, the way Mario moved around. It was almost this combination of like 2D and 3D movement. It just had a little bit more, it wasn't quite as fluid or open as some previous 3D Mario titles, but fantastic game. Played this one to death. And this is one of my favorite disc art. Got some more Club Nintendo codes, the manual. Not a lot here, just going through the different control schemes. And obviously this was a recent release, I guess one of the most recent Wii U ports to the Switch, which I did pick up. And I actually never finished the main game on the Switch. I definitely finished it here on the Wii U, but I loved Bowser's Fury. That was one of my favorite games of last year. Super creative, just kind of like a bite-sized experimental Mario. And I really hope the next Mario kind of goes in that direction, just a little bigger in scope. But fantastic Mario game. And if you don't have this on the Switch yet with Bowser's Fury, highly, highly recommend it. Ton of fun. Bowser's Fury has like some of my favorite Mario music ever. Next up, we have Bayonetta 2, another game that's come over to the Switch. And if you bought this early enough, or maybe they kept this in with all the releases of the Wii U, I'm not sure, but they did the same thing on the Switch. It includes the original Bayonetta as well as a download. Oh, okay, never mind. On the Wii U, it was, you got an extra disc there. Don't think I've ever beaten the first game entirely, but I have the second, which I really love. Fantastic game. Platinum Games, of course. Really an amazing action combat game with all sorts of over-the-top elements and really cool atmosphere. Just like a really cool, unique title. I think there was people at the time who were upset that this was a Nintendo exclusive, especially on the Wii U since so few people had it, but I was happy that this came over. And everyone's going to know this one, Mario Kart 8, the original release back in 2014. So, you know, we're talking about that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass now, and we're really talking about an 8-year-old game from the Wii U. But at the time, this was such an exciting release. I think already it was like software releases were starting to spread out a little bit, and maybe it was already obvious at this point that the Wii U wasn't off to quite the start that Nintendo would hope and Nintendo fans would hope. But what an incredible game. Just looked gorgeous. The new anti-gravity mechanics were really fun. Track design was phenomenal. Incredible music. Just one of the absolute best games on the Wii U, and obviously continues to be the best-selling game on the Switch with 8 Deluxe. And then they did release the DLC for this that's now included in 8 Deluxe with, you know, Link and Splatoon characters and Animal Crossing characters and 200cc mode. I think that was part of the DLC as well. I really always liked this red case. Amazing game. And next up, Splatoon, which at the time, and I guess, yeah, let me go back here. Okay, so this is the first box to feature the Amiibo logo there, at least in my collection. I'm sure there was maybe a release or two before this that featured that, but that was the one thing in the Wii U era, even though, you know, the Wii U was not doing well, the Amiibo hype was just insane, and it was kind of something that got me through those software droughts, at least as Nintendo fans. We had something to go out and hunt for, but you've got the Amiibo functionality on the box here, and the Splatoon Amiibo there, which I guess were some of the first, other than like the first wave of Smash characters. And this was really exciting because it was a completely brand new IP, something that wasn't really common for Nintendo to do, obviously sticking to kind of their same tentpole releases with their, you know, big franchises. So to launch something entirely new and have it really take off was just really cool to see. Really creative take on like a multiplayer shooter. And I had heard somewhere that the idea for this was maybe spawned around a paintball fight that was had at the old Nintendo headquarters before they moved to their new corporate headquarters. Could be getting that wrong. That could just be one of those rumors, but super creative game. They let some younger developers kind of spearhead this. So it was really cool to have this really youthful and brand new IP come out of Nintendo. And that's kind of when I was starting to get the feeling that, yeah, the Wii U wasn't doing well, but it did feel like Nintendo sort of just said, well, okay, let's just experiment then. What do we have to lose? So some really great software came out of the Wii U's overall failure, I guess. Even to this day, I love Splatoon 2, I've played it a ton. I do still miss the gamepad functionality, just to have that map always there that you could just tap on with the stylus. If you got killed, you could tap one of your teammates across the map and jump to them. And you'd always have kind of a quick view in your hands of how your team was doing compared to the other, with who was getting more of the turf painted. And Splatoon is now one of the tentpole releases for Nintendo. It's just massively popular in Japan, so Splatoon's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we obviously have Splatoon 3 this summer, so can't wait to check that out. And Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, which was sort of a dual release across the 3DS, basically the same game with slightly different art style, and Smash Bros. For 3DS instead of Wii U. And this was a great game. I enjoyed it more than Brawl, but for me, Smash Bros. Ultimate is really tops. But still had a ton of fun with this one. There's nothing like a new Smash release on new Nintendo hardware. And you've got the Amiibo logo there too. And that was, you know, what the first big wave of Amiibo was modeled after, was all these Smash characters. Okay, now this one's not so fun. Things were really starting to slow down at this point, and this was one of those games that no one asked for, and you probably know what it is already. Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, obviously kind of capitalizing on Amiibo popularity at the time, and this was when we saw Animal Crossing Amiibo flooding store shelves. You know, there was like too many, and people kind of right off the bat weren't buying them. And yeah, just not the greatest game. Kind of like a Mario Party clone. It's a board game. You use the Amiibo to go around the village, and there are some activities, but there's no strong mini game component like you have with Mario Party. It's just a fairly dull release. And I'd say this was kind of like the height of like, it's really tough to be a Nintendo fan right now. And there you can see the first wave of Animal Crossing Amiibo there. The Isabelle and Digby Amiibo came with this version as like a pack-in. Still picked it up, played it with my wife. We had some fun with it, kind of played it around the holidays, but definitely one of really, I think, the worst games in my collection. Next, we have Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. Here's one that hasn't come over to the Switch and probably never will. I mean, I guess it could since the Switch has a touchscreen, but yeah, I really don't see this one happening. But this was a very fun game. I don't know that I liked it quite as much as Kirby's Epic Yarn, which was just more of a straightforward Kirby platformer on the Wii. It was super easy, but the art style was really incredible and kind of kept me playing. But this game is really good too. Kind of has like a claymation art style, and you'd use the stylus to draw these like rainbow platforms and roads and loops and stuff that Kirby would ride across. And yeah, it was a really beautiful looking game, but you kind of had to like look at the gamepad the entire time. Some really adorable clay disc art there. There were some really, Canvas Curse on the DS, I think. Really creative Kirby games around that time, at least more so than something like Star Allies, which I just found to be really underwhelming and kind of boring. But the new Kirby and the Forgotten Land, coming out next month on the Switch, looks absolutely incredible. Full 3D outing. But yeah, had a lot of fun with this one, but really don't see myself revisiting it anytime soon. And next we have Yoshi's Woolly World, which brought us some cool yarn amiibo. And I ended up picking up the Mega Yarn Yoshi, the like giant Yoshi amiibo. Still have it boxed, never opened it up. That's probably like one of the most expensive amiibo in my collection. But I think I liked Woolly World better than Crafted World. This game really reminded me of Kirby's Epic Yarn, obviously kind of using a similar art style. Again, fairly easy, like kid-friendly platformer, but the art style was just so cool. But a really fun game. I guess I could see this coming over to the Switch, maybe. But we already have Crafted World, so I don't know that there'd be a ton of demand there. Okay, another red case here with Super Mario Maker. And at the time, this game was so incredibly exciting. Just an unbelievably creative way to go about a Mario game, kind of giving us all the tools to create our own levels, and the Wii U gamepad just worked perfectly for this game. And Mario Maker on the Switch just never felt quite right after playing Super Mario Maker on the Wii U. Just felt so much better with the stylus and the Wii U tablet, creating levels and kind of swapping back and forth between creation and play. And the online sharing of levels, I think they did that through Miiverse at the time, and it was just really exciting, super creative. This was another one of those where it was just like, Nintendo really coming out of left field with a new concept here. So yeah, if you are planning to pick up a Wii U, this would be like one of my first recommendations to go with it. I think, the online sharing is shut down now, but you can still have a ton of fun, and I still prefer this release to the Switch version of Mario Maker. Yeah, just didn't quite do it for me the same way. Okay, we are getting there. Next up, Xenoblade Chronicles X. And at the time, this was a really exciting release for me. I mean, even though it was Xenoblade, it felt like one of the more ambitious kind of AAA releases for Nintendo. You could even download a separate patch. It took up a decent amount of space, but the patch helped with like extra textures, high-res textures. I can't remember exactly what it was, but this game really pushed the Wii U hardware to the limits. And at this point, PlayStation 4 had already been released. So even though the Wii U, for a short time there around launch, had been the most powerful console, it got leapfrogged by the PS4 and the Xbox One. So, you know, games weren't looking nearly as good, but this was still a looker on the Wii U. And maybe not my favorite Xenoblade, but really had a lot of fun with it. And I think my biggest complaint was that it took so long to get to the point where you could use your mechs, or your skells, they called them. I can't remember what the hour mark was, but it was like tens of hours, like maybe even, I don't know, somewhere around like 50 hours before you got the skells, which really helped your traversal across the map. The maps were huge, and otherwise you were kind of just running across the map, but with the skells you could fly or run, and it would just be a lot faster. All the menu stuff was handled on the Wii U tablet as well. This one, it seems like, would be a no-brainer to bring over to the Switch. There's so many Xenoblade titles on the Switch already, but I could see it doing well. Obviously, very few people had a chance to play this on the Wii U compared to the install base of the Switch. So I would definitely jump back into this if they brought it over to the Switch. It's been long enough that I've really forgotten a lot of it. But yeah, it was a cool kind of futuristic seeming Xenoblade with all the mechs and skills. This was part of a special edition package. This box is in a little rough shape, but yeah, this was the special edition at the time. Has a really cool like textured embossed cover here with the skull. And there's the back. Kind of came with standard stuff, but it was still cool. You had your art book, an art card, obviously the game, and then the soundtrack on this USB stick that was kind of modeled after some in-game elements. This one's probably starting to go up in price a little bit. I don't think it's anything crazy, but yeah, I'll be holding on to this one for a while. Next up, Twilight Princess HD, another title that a lot of people are waiting for to come over to the Switch. Not my favorite Zelda release, but still a really cool, dark, atmospheric game. You know, it's got some clunky elements, but the HD version did address some quality of life stuff from the original release, and it did look really nice. You know, not a crazy remaster, but brought it up to HD. Came with a really, at least this version did, came with a really cool wolf link with Midna on the back there. Seems like a no-brainer to bring over to the Switch, but we've been waiting a really long time on this one for some reason. Next up, Pokken Tournament, the Pokemon fighting game, which has come over to the Switch. I didn't pick up the Switch release because I never really got hooked by this. I played through it a while, and I've kind of become more of a Pokemon fan since the Wii U days, but I was really just kind of like a casual Pokemon fan at the time, and this one just didn't really hook me for some reason. But it looked really gorgeous, and it was just, yeah, a cool fighting game with Pokemon. And I guess this one came with an Amiibo card. That's right, I guess Mewtwo or Mew, yeah. Good, I'm glad that's still in there. I completely forgot about that. So I left that sealed, Shadow Mewtwo. So you could have the NFC chip in there. What's cool about this is you can leave it sealed and still scan it. So I think I did scan this, but yeah, I'll be leaving that sealed. I wonder if this is worth anything. Probably not, but I'll just leave that in there and forget about it for a few more years after these go into storage. All right, we're getting very close to the end here. Thanks for sticking with me if you have. Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, one of the last games I bought on the Wii U. Lego games are fun. They're kind of like mindless collectathons and beat 'em ups. But this game looked really, really nice. There was obviously a lot of hype around Star Wars at the time with the return and The Force Awakens. So this was fun, but just kind of like, I don't know, one of those popcorn games for me. A little forgettable, but I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan. I guess my enthusiasm for Star Wars has really kind of waned over the years with just how much we've had of it. But at the time, it was really cool to see this on the Wii U, and it's really like impressive graphically. So got my money's worth out of it. So I've got two slightly special editions here at the end. The first one being Star Fox Zero with the pack-in of Star Fox Guard. And funny enough, I ended up playing Star Fox Guard more than Star Fox Zero. And it was kind of an odd, like, tower defense game, but you're just managing camera feeds, and there's like these invading alien robots, and you can do that all on the gamepad and kind of switch between the feeds and shoot your weapons at these invading robots. So I don't know if this one is like quite as common. I don't know if they sold this standalone or not. They maybe did, but I would imagine that this would be a little bit more rare than Star Fox Zero itself. And, you know, almost felt like a tech demo just in the Star Fox universe. Got Slippy there and Uncle, I can't remember his name, but yeah, super weird, but ended up, yeah, getting more play than Star Fox Zero, which, you know, was a really nice looking game. I was really ready for a new Star Fox. Like gameplay wise, well, not control wise, but just the overall setup of the game was really straightforward, which I liked. Just kind of like a return to standard Star Fox fare, but I could just never get used to the control scheme. Like it eventually made sense for me, but it just wasn't fun. I never felt like, oh, this is better, where you would be controlling your ship, but then all the aiming was handled by the gamepad. So to like aim off to the right, you would actually like swing the gamepad around. It just felt super awkward. I just wish there was an option to not use those gamepad controls and just use like standard controls on the Pro Controller. Can't really remember how integral that control system was. I do think I remember it not seeming like it was though, that there was like really no reason that the controls had to be that way. So this would be a really cool release to bring over to the Switch with just standard controls and, you know, slightly increased resolution or something like that. But yeah, I never completed this game. I remember kind of just being fed up at that point. Some of Nintendo's decisions, probably getting close to the time that we were learning of like a significant delay of Breath of the Wild 2, which was, you know, not Breath of the Wild 2, but Breath of the Wild also, which we're really waiting for and weren't sure that that was going to be a release on the successor. It was supposed to be like this big release on the Wii U, and of course it ended up being cross-gen. But yeah, definitely not not my favorite Star Fox. And I hope we get new Star Fox. I love the series, but I just felt like they sucked the fun out of this one with the control scheme, which I guess was kind of shoehorned in there by Miyamoto, who just insisted that it had to be that way. Cool idea, but just kind of failed on the execution. Okay, so last up here is probably my favorite item in my Wii U collection, and that is Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. And what a weird release. You know, this was done by Atlas, a crossover series with sort of a weird history. I think the original crossover concept was supposed to be somewhat different, but a crossover between Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. Well, yeah, a cross between Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem, but then with this weird Japanese idol musical element to it. So just like crazy bizarre presentation with, you know, these like mirages, these Fire Emblem characters as gods, and then sort of the combat system from Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, but you would be like singing in an arena. Just, yeah, really, really weird. This one has come over to the Switch, and for whatever reason, I didn't pick that up, but I did beat this on the Wii U, and I really love this version, this special edition here. I would think this is maybe one of the more rare releases on the Wii U. Don't think it sold a ton. I actually don't think it sold all that well on the Switch either, which is a shame. I think that comes down to the presentation being so bizarre and just, you know, not for everybody. If you're not into the idol culture thing, I could see it being a little off-putting, but I had so much fun with it. The music is really amazing. All the cutscenes are really cool characters. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, so this was like and Fire Emblem too, so this was just this bizarre crossover that didn't seem to make sense. But here's some of the stuff that's included. I have some download codes, some stickers. I think these are like art cards, and this cool little art book here. Yeah, so I actually ended up hacking my Wii U specifically to play the uncensored Japanese version of this game with, English translation. There was this one dungeon that sort of had some like adult themes. Story-wise, it kind of didn't make sense the way they censored it in the US version. There's nothing major, but it just motivated me enough to try it out. And then after hacking my Wii U, I added all sorts of games to it, and it's really become this like incredible emulation machine. It's packed full of stuff. Every now and then I'm like, I want to hook my Wii U back up and just play everything that I have on there, and the virtual console stuff too. So there you go. That is my Wii U physical game collection that's now going to be put away into storage. So yeah, really interesting time to be a Nintendo fan, and really tough to imagine the success of the Switch that we're currently seeing. This was really kind of a dark time for Nintendo. Even though it was kind of a rough time, we still had Amiibo, which were really cool. There was so much hype around those in the beginning. Going out and hunting the more like rare figures was so much fun. And even though the software releases were kind of few and far between on the Wii U, there were so many that were really creative, really fun, just Nintendo kind of doing their thing. And obviously there's a lot of Switch DNA in the Wii U. This is like basically the Switch, except you were tethered to the console. So you couldn't bring this out of the house without it disconnecting. But sort of a half measure step of having a home console that you could also play handheld. And yeah, I don't know if the Wii U hadn't happened, I don't know that we'd have the Switch. And even though it didn't sell well, I think this would be, especially now, I feel like prices on Wii U systems and games are only going to go up from here. So if you're a Nintendo collector, it's something you want to add to your collection, there's a ton of fun to be had. It's a really unique system in Nintendo's console history here. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. So thanks for hanging around. If you did, sorry if that wasn't the most exciting video, but figured I would just go through this stuff before I put it away. And got some more reviews coming up, so don't worry if you're more interested in that kind of content. If you enjoyed this little run through my Wii U library, please give the video a like on your way out, and also consider subscribing if you're not already. And until the next video, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.